Hi there everyone, Lars here with my review of the Vermeil Season 1 finale, brought to you by Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And I am really happy that I kept up with this anime adaptation of the manga Vermeil. It has been a whole lot of fun to look at. It's been a great way of looking at how pacing can absolutely affect a story and at how an adaptation can improve on an original concept or provide a slightly different way of looking at it in a way that helps to, again, elevate the overall story. For the most part, this has been a fantastic anime to watch. Now that we've come to the end of the season, it's really interesting. It ended where I didn't expect it to. So I'm going to get into all of that here in this video. I'm going to be covering the fight because that's where I left off in the last video. And then I want to talk about where the anime ends, its strengths and its weaknesses in this final episode. So, strap ourselves on in, let's dive into this succubus goodness. You know, I wonder how many Naruto fans or Naruto veterans felt just kind of a tremor in the force when episode 11 of Vermeil happened to be an entire flashback episode. This is kind of a staple of so many action series out there, especially those from Japan. And what I have to say is that it can be good, but it can also be kind of bad. It was interesting that the anime decided to take this moment, which actually happens later in the manga, and place it into the middle of the fight. And I think that comes down to the fact that the anime decided to actually have Alto and Iolite go hammer and tongs in this battle. Iolite isn't just simply toying around with Alto and Vermeil like he does in the manga. He's actually going for the kill. He is being serious, which is neat. I enjoyed seeing that here, especially in this last episode. It makes him a good villain. It's always annoying when villains decide to just toy around with a hero like a cat playing with its food. Look, we get it, you're super powerful and everything like that, but honestly, when you toy around with a hero, it gives a hero a chance to kind of get in a cheap shot and then you lose. It's actually far more interesting when the villain decides to actually be serious, like what the anime decided to do with Iolite, make him serious and go all out for the kill. When a villain is serious, it forces the hero to actually bring everything to bear in order to win or to just stay alive, and that makes whatever victory there is way more earned and way more impactful. Or if they lose, it really does seal the fact that yes, the hero lost because of these reasons, and therefore we now know as the audience what the hero needs to improve on in order to defeat the villain. You always get way more out of a story when the villain is actually being serious rather than just toying around with the heroes. I don't really understand why this is such a big trope, and I'm going to say that as someone who writes OP characters and especially OP villains, that you know they can win. The whole idea of them just toying around, I'll be honest, writing that is actually kind of frustrating because you as the creator are like, wait a second, no, the villain can do this, 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 and this. They should win because they know that the hero could do this, this, and this, which could undermine them in any kind of situation. So it just makes way more sense for the villains to always go all out unless they have completely manufactured the surrounding setting and the situation in order to play into their favor no matter what. That can be really cool, but that also takes a lot of work to build up properly. And so, yeah, they can really complicate things. Anyway, let's bring things back to the flashback and why this is necessary to the story. It is very important for Alto to see what actually happened in Vermeil's past, to understand that she is the greatest calamity. She has the power to destroy entire continents, potentially to destroy the entire world. Hers is basically a release of energy at an exponential rate that just rips everything apart like a true nuclear bomb would do. So, for Alto to say, I love her, despite the countless people that she murdered across hundreds of years, and despite the fact that anything could potentially set her off and boom, there goes the world, that says a lot about how Alto feels for her and that as he tells Iolite, it's like, I have seen the good in her. Yes, she is a demon. Yes, demons are by nature supposed to be wicked. But Vermeil is different, and my experiences with Vermeil have shown me that that's the case. And now, in retrospect, it makes sense why the anime decided to pound the fact early on that she is evil, whereas in the manga, things were far more nuanced. That way, it makes Alto's decision way more impactful that he chooses Vermeil rather than just simply hand her on over to Iolite and to the rest of the Platinum Square, and that he is willing to express his feelings. He's willing to actually love her for who she is. And that is a really awesome heroic moment for Alto, even though he is outmatched in this fight. And that, I think, is something that's kind of missing in the manga, because in the manga, Alto and Vermeil just get wrecked by Iolite, and then they have to come to this realization afterwards, confessing their love, learning about the past, so on and so forth. Instead, the anime condenses all of that and actually delivers a really strong emotional punch, seeing everything that happened in Vermeil's past, and Alto in the moment having to make his decision. Will he turn his back on Vermeil, or will he choose her? That was powerful. I felt that. So then, coming out of the past, Alto and Vermeil, again, confess their feelings absolutely and completely. They accept one another. They get the power up of love, but this time it actually makes sense because they share a heart. So I'm absolutely going to accept this here. And it allows them to take on the creations that Iolite has. Then I like to see that Iolite's like, fine, you know what? Gloves are coming off. Like, I'm not even going to... If you thought I was being serious before, you had no idea what I can still do. And, like, that was good. I was like, holy dang, we're going to get an episode-long battle right here. Awesome! But then, the timer goes off. They have to retreat because if they stay much longer, the Platinum Square risks running into more operatives from the military. And even though they're basically effectively gods, if more mages show up on the scene, it could make things tricky. And Iolite still has a long fight ahead of him, taking on Alto and Vermeil. So it's best to make a strategic retreat and to come back later on and finish the job when the time is right, when the situation is just right. And then Fatima, the good mage, the mage of the beginnings who put Vermeil into the book, reverses everything. I am conflicted about this particular scene right here because it goes to show just how powerful magic can actually be within this world. She is the original Platinum Mage. She's the one who delved into the depths of what you can do with magic, manipulating time, space, memory. As a result, she can reverse things into a past situation. She restores the entire school and restores everyone who was injured. That was really awesome to see. One of the problems, though, when you have magic like that is that it kind of removes some of the stakes from the fight. Now then, she apparently is not going to show up again, or at least anytime soon, so that means that from this point on, consequences will have to be dealt with going into Season 2 of Vermeil and Gold, or as it is within the manga, you still have to just deal with the consequences no matter what. So, it was a cool moment, but when it comes to stakes, you want to make sure that stakes stick. And because my last video on Vermeil and Gold was basically a large fight analysis, I need to wrap up with what I said before, that one of the things that's most important about understanding any fight is its consequences. The consequences of this fight are that Vermeil and Alto are indeed a couple. It's no longer just a master and familiar relationship, but that love has been confessed. And they are a couple. And from this point on, they are going to explore really what that means. Now then, for all of you who are like, yes, we got the big boink there at the end of episode 12. The anime leaves it a little bit ambiguous, but in the manga, no, there was no big boink right there. As we learn later on in the manga, Alto has really been holding back. At this point, I'm like, dude, you do you, but it's kind of a little bit silly at this point. But yeah, so the relationship is progressing. And at the core of Vermeil and Gold in both the anime and in the manga, that's what it's really always been about. It's been about this relationship. And I do think that the manga does a much better job of showing how the relationship progresses a little bit more realistically, but that's kind of a nitpick on my part. Of course, then another consequence of this fight is that all of the heroes manage to progress through the exams to the next level in their education, which is good on them. Alto learns also that he has a lot that he needs to improve on. So he's going to work more closely with the student council in order to progress as a person, and they will now begin to investigate the military and the Platinum Square. So this sets up the next arc within the story, which, whenever Season 2 of Vermeil and Gold rolls around, if it holds true to what's happening in the manga, there are going to be some crazy cool things that happen down the road. So that's something to really look forward to. And of course, the Platinum Square has been foiled in their plans, but they have not been beaten. And that's something that I enjoy with a hero-villain dynamic. Good villains are those who they might be able to take their lumps, but their plans continue forward, or their ultimate goals are still attainable, even if they have to shift things around. It's really, really annoying to see villains who you've invested a lot of time and effort into, and a lot of, especially if you get to see more of the villains within a story you've emotionally invested in them. It's really annoying to see their plans just undone within one chapter or one episode or one fight, because that just goes to show that they put all their eggs in one basket, and that kind of takes away from the allure and the intelligence of said villain. It's a huge problem within the Game of Thrones series, where so many villains are undone by just one thing happening. And some people praise that as like, oh, brilliant politics, brilliant politics. No, that's actually really stupid, because a good politician knows how to have contingency plans. So the Platinum Square do have their own contingency plans. They are by no means beaten. They just have to make a strategic retreat in order to come back even better and stronger than before, which, again, if Season 2 of Vermeil and Gold sticks to the manga, oh boy, there's some pretty crazy stuff that's coming down the pipe in regards to what the Platinum Square has at their disposal and what they have planned. So that's something really exciting. The consequences of this final fight are all really good. In fact, a lot of this fight is well set up, well executed, and the stakes and the consequences, there's good payoff for all of that. The one thing that I do not like about this fight is that Alto should be very capable of casting multiple spells, and yet the spell that allows him to go toe-to-toe with Iolite is his crystal spell. Him defeating the weird combination of Rooks and Knight with just a massive glob of crystal, that was very underwhelming. That was very disappointing. I think it would have been great to actually see, like, once again, the whole idea of magic conduits come back, and he then, like, just kind of tears the amalgamation of Rooks and Knights apart, weakening them, and then maybe he could have crushed them with crystals, or at least done something else, because he is capable of that. The manga and the anime make that known to us, so why do we keep on coming back to the crystals? It's like Ichigo continuously using Getsuga Tensho when we know that he is capable of doing so many other attacks that actually yield way better results. It's just lazy. So yeah, I enjoyed this final episode for Season 1, and I'm really hoping that there is a Season 2, and hopefully this time with a better budget, because given everything that they did on a very limited budget for this show, to me that very clearly indicates that there is a lot of potential. This could be something really awesome. And Vermeil and Gold in and of itself has kind of been a little bit of a sleeper hit this season. A lot of the videos that I've done here on YouTube have just continuously progressed getting views and likes. It's clear that more and more people are discovering this anime as the season goes on and are enjoying it. There's a lot of positive things to say about it. It might not be the best or the most bombastic or the most flashy or the best produced, but it's good, and a good story will gain followers. So I really hope that it has a chance to get a second season. Now then, let's talk about the strengths and the weaknesses. being able to look back at season 1 in its entirety, I do enjoy that they are more concrete with saying, Vermeil is evil. Vermeil is evil at the beginning to then show how Alto's choice is affected by that reality at the end of the season. And it makes Alto and Vermeil getting together just seem way more significant rather than inevitable as it is in the manga. Now, I do enjoy the nuances within the manga because I think that it actually brings out way more of Vermeil's personality and makes her way more of a main character within the story. So there's some pros and cons to all of this right here. And I think that one of the other great strengths of this season has been its pacing. The pacing has been really, really fast, which does mean that certain things are left by the wayside, things that I would have liked to have spent more time with. But because they knew that they had to end the season at a place that made sense, they went ahead with the slightly faster pacing, left the more frivolous stuff off to the wayside, so that way we would always get the most important things, the real meat and bones of Vermeil and Gold, so that way you would have a good story. And that's something that, again, we come back to again and again here on Camille's Harem. Pacing, pacing, pacing. It's a really difficult thing to figure out, but if you can find the right pacing for your story, it can be so incredibly strong, whether that has to be a slow burn or fast-paced or there are no breaks kind of a pace. That helps the story become its best self. And the anime definitely figured out the best pacing for itself here. I think, though, some of the weaknesses of this anime adaptation for Vermeil and Gold is that of the things that were cut, there were actually some scenes that would have been really great to have seen more of with Alto and Vermeil to more fully establish the fact that theirs is a very loving relationship. They definitely went with the more succubus-oriented route. Again, that's because they wanted to focus more on Vermeil's evil side. But again, there's a lot of goodness that was kind of left on the cutting room floor. Another weakness is that they didn't explore Alto's wide range of magical capabilities. And so it kind of drops him a little bit to just your regular shonen protagonist who has his one-trick pony card and everything like that. The nice thing is that Alto isn't your traditional beta boy. So that softened the blow right there. But as I say all those things, kind of feels to me a bit like I'm nitpicking. Vermeil and Gold has just been a really fun ride, at least for myself. I've enjoyed reading the manga. I've enjoyed watching the anime. It's sad that it's over. I'm really hoping for a season 2. But yeah, it's just been a really good story. If you're watching this and you haven't seen any episodes of Vermeil and Gold, sorry that I spoiled the ending right there, but hey, you should still take some time to watch it because it is a whole lot of fun. And I hope that we can see more of these anime adaptations where it's not always beat for beat for beat exactly what it is in the manga, but that the adapters take some time to think about, okay, what was really good about the story and where was it weak? So that way we can focus on some of those weak elements and we can bolster them so that way they complement the rest of the story. And then we can also take these good elements and just really focus on how good it is. And I know that sounds kind of vague and novice-like to say, and hey, I am a novice writer, but adaptations do take a lot of work, but in concept, it's actually pretty simple. You want to stay true to the story, but you do also want to say, okay, where are the weaknesses within the narrative? Because you can't 100% adapt a story into another medium. There are some things that are going to have to be cut or added to make things work. And that's something that, especially as we see in Western media with all of these soulless adaptations coming out, this is something that should be remembered by more Hollywood writers. Now, speaking of good writing advice that we might be able to pluck out of all of this for novice authors here, I'm actually going to focus on the big boink. Like I said, it didn't actually happen, but there's something I want to say as far as when should your relationship actually go through? Well, that kind of depends on the story that you wish to tell. Do you want your story to end with your characters getting all lovey-dovey and getting into bed with each other? Does the story end with them holding hands or having their first kiss? Or have they already been in a strong relationship or within a developing relationship early on, and the story ends because, well, that's where the rest of the plot has all culminated? That depends a whole lot on the story that you wish to tell. But looking at something like Vermeil and Gold, which is ultimately a story about a boy and a succubus falling in love, again, the pacing was right. The pacing had the right mile marks all the way up to the end, where we had the devilish flirting, the awkwardness, the miscommunications, which then lead to all of these misunderstandings that then have to be resolved. You can have arguments, you can have kiss and make up, all leading up to characters being way more intimate. Now, within Vermeil and Gold, there is a lot of forced intimacy, but it doesn't actually have any real heart and soul until it is reciprocated by both sides. And it's actually one of the things that makes the ending of episode 12 really powerful, is that Alto and Vermeil both have accepted their feelings, and that intimacy is 100% reciprocated, now even out in the open, and not just in the bedroom. And that's something that so many novice authors get wrong. They want to jump straight to the good steamy bits. Now, usually this happens in fan fiction, which that's one of the reasons why so many people look at fan fiction as trash, is because they can see, even if they want the good steamy bits, people realize that relationships don't progress that fast. From like hand-holding to mattress mumbo. No, it doesn't happen that way. We instinctively are drawn to good romances that make sense and that progress naturally within the framework of the story. We want to be there for that whole progression that leads from the awkward phase to the intimate phase, and it takes time. So whether it be that it happens in the middle of your story or towards the end of your story, you need good mile markers, you need good pacing in order to logically and naturally progress your core relationships, your core romances. Now then, I will say this, there is definitely something very cathartic to the soul that you're like, at the end of the story, the characters finally get it, they've finally expressed their love, and they are a happy couple. There's something beautiful about that. It's the whole fairy tale happy ending. And I'm never going to discourage anyone from writing that because, hey, I've done it myself, and it's enjoyable. But don't discard the idea of having characters get together and actually be in a full-on intimate relationship before the ending of your story, because then you can actually explore who they are as characters after that. A good relationship should always elevate the characters, not be the end point of who they are. And if you can write that, wow, that is also very strong and very rewarding to both the writer and to their audience. So yeah, definitely think about where your characters' relationships stand, how they should progress, and where you want your story to end in regards to their romantic progression. Have they finally gotten together, or have they already gotten together and we just get to see them continuously progress as a couple? Which is, both of them are sweet and awesome. So, there you have it. This novice's approval of Vermeil and Gold, as well as some writing advice that I know you can definitely take to the bank and to help make your stories even better. And yeah, you know what? I've really enjoyed looking at Vermeil and Gold, depending on how the manga progresses, and also if we get a season 2. I'm pretty certain that I'm going to return to this story here on YouTube. But in the meantime, if you're looking for more writing advice, please check out our other videos here on our channel. You can also head on over to our podcast, Camille's Harem, found on Podbean, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, the works. We have writing exercises for you to check out over at our Pinterest page, and we would love for you to join our ever-growing community of novice authors. Links for all of that and more are in the description below. And until the next video, y'all, hold your busty succubus close and juice.
気に入って